Greetings, you tasty mortals. My name is Diversity Plague, and I am here to eat you with a vlog gameplay video. This is actually a very first for me because I am using Audacity currently to not only improve upon my voice quality so that way you can hear me clearly without blowing your eardrums out, but I am also here to commentate on a gameplay footage similar to how Review Tech USA would do it. I think he would play a game and then he would voice over his own content. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, as you can see, I am currently looking at a new champion by the name of Nyx on the front page. So I went into the training mode and sure enough, there he was. He was at the end of the thing. He's a scythe gun wielder, very different from Mirage being a scythe and spear wielder, and his Grim Reaper outfit was actually the thing that stuck out to me the most. Even though it's a second skin, it stuck out to me the most for its cosmetics and its aesthetics, but no color actually went well with it. Now, I went with the Nightshade, and this is something I want to address. The champion's stances only increase something and decrease something by 1 point. Now, whether this was intended by the developers of Brawlhalla, it's something that I want to bring to light that I do not know if this was meant for balancing issues, and I'm sorry if I'm not cutting out my own audio, but I figured that I need to keep this as raw as possible unless necessary. I will be editing this later. It doesn't really matter what stance it is, it only increases and decreases something by a point. Now, as you can see, and I actually did go into the AI settings to try to fight Koji and get an understanding for the champion, his play of special abilities actually revolves around him using his shadow, if I'm not mistaken. Now, as you can see, I am obviously getting my ass manhandled right now, but I still remembered that a scythe was meant for combos rather than raw damage, so I eventually did compensate, but I was still flying all over the place like an idiot. But right there, I actually did decide to test his forward and then his down. His down special is actually something I liked because it was similar to Azal's bow, but it was more of a stationary. Now, when I picked up the guns, I only went into the combos, and then that right there, the forward special right there, that was immediately what caught my attention. It was similar to Cross, that was it. He was using a method similar to that with his guns, but with Nyx, his down special actually releases chains into the ground, which erupt upward, and his stationary special grabs opponents that are directly above him. Now, I literally do mean directly because any other direction, and it was going to be kind of bullshit. Now that I've covered Nyx, and again, I'm going to have to do a lot of editing, I'm actually going to go into the actual part of my vlog. I actually do need to cover this now that I mentioned Nyx. Nyx is supposed to be played strategically because he is a gun and scythe wielder. That means that you have to compensate for the distance of the guns. You can't just go full on thinking that you're gonna hit something that's like right in your face. And with a scythe, it can be meant for combos, but again, there's a bit of that distance factor, so you have to play him strategically. And speaking of strategists, I actually do want to get into villains. Now, I'm bringing villains up because the most common thing that you'll notice about many of villain is that they have a power that is unique to them, or even a dark hero, they have a power that is unique to them and them alone. Now, when it came to Naraku, his power was to absorb entities, and this is actually something that is already used in film and media. It's not the most original thing. In fact, the top tier user of this, in fact, actually it's not top tier, the original pioneer of this absorption evolution ability would actually be John Carpenter's horror child, The Thing, where just a cell just one cell, replicate within the body and take control of the organism. Like, the minute you got even just its blood on you, you were basically fucked. You were finished. You were done. You were down. You were it. And there have been enemies that have expressed this to a point. But there are two villains off the top of my head that touch this. There is Aptom, who is intentionally described to be inspired by the Thing. Now, I'm not gonna go and look at what episode it is. It is actually when Arkenfell, the top Zoalord in the Guyver series, when he rips apart a few Zoanoid guards, I want to say. Aptom then tries to confront Arkenfell, or Arkenseal, I can't remember what the actual name is, but I think Arkenfell is it. Aptom gets split into 3 pieces. Yes, he gets split into 3 pieces, and normally when you get your ass dismembered, you're done. You're finished. And he wasn't. He actually took the 3 pieces and assimilated to the guards, and they were just as much Aptom as the original. There was no clone of Aptom. Every one of them was just as real as the original. Similar with the Thing. Now, there is another character, and this is in Inuyasha, by the name of Naraku, and he doesn't really touch upon this particular trait as well. He has incarnations, and the reason why I say incarnations is because no matter what flesh gets ejected from his body, they are a separate entity. They are not him. They are him in flesh, but not him in mind. I really hope that made sense, because otherwise I'm just dragging this on. But anyway, but what Naraku did, not too dissimilar, but still different from the Thing, what Naraku would do is that he would take his entire body and just strewn it all over the place, like the entire basement, Resident Evil style, whenever he was trying to make improvements. He did this to try to improve upon his body further and further, because when you first see him, like, quote-unquote transform, it looks grotesque, it looks nasty, and even he states that it's not entirely perfect. There are still any number of flaws. So he's doing this experimentation with his own flesh to try to perfect his body. And remember, the word perfect when it comes to ideals is a fucking joke, so don't even think that perfect is achieved and that perfect can be gained. No, perfection can never be gained. Now, you can improve yourself and by the ideal perfect a craft, but in terms of perfecting yourself to the point where you think you're a god, no. You can't do that. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. Naraku, he would take parts of his body, experiment with them, rearrange them, and by the time we see him in Mount Hakure, he's definitely made some improvements. Like, his barrier can take Tetsaiga's red-edged windscar. He can take just numerous amounts of hits to the barrier, and his stamina will not wear out. His barrier does not fully disperse until he takes adamant barrages to the barrier and then takes them to the gut. Another enemy that I think has utilized this to some extent, well, I say villain, but he's actually a colony of organisms that need to be a colony, otherwise they don't exist, is Goto from Parasite. Now, he can actually transform his body to suit his needs, be it weapons, muscle mass, etc. And he does share a few traits of the Thing, but he only shares them to a point. He can't divide his body like he wants to. He can't divide it, he can't separate himself, he can't do anything. All he can do is just move it around. And so Goto is not entirely perfect when it comes to being a mascot for anything. Like, yeah, the face, okay? Let's just get that out of the way, and I will even have a picture of it while I'm editing. The face is terrifying. It's horrifying. It is meant to be the face of a true legit beast or monster. In fact, that's what he is. Naraku, he keeps his face like throughout the entire course of the entire Inuyasha story. Like, no matter what changes he undergoes, he always has that human-like face 99.9% of the time. And when it came to Aptom, he does often transform, and like I said, the body dividing and divide and conquer type of concept. With Aptom, it is there, but in terms of versatility, we don't see Aptom utilizing his powers to their fullest. He's not constantly using other weapons such as the Valmor cannons. He's not constantly changing and adapting. He just uses the quote-unquote battle form that he's achieved, and then that's the end of the story. Yes, he does use the abilities of the other Zoonoids he's absorbed, but what real point is there to that? Like, there really is no point to him just using one form. Now, if he were to use the multiple forms, it would throw off his opponents. Like, if he were to use Gregoyle, Valmor, Enzyme, and all the others, not simultaneously, but individually, then every Zoonoid that is close by to him won't know what he's going to turn into next. But if he always turns into the battle creature, then they'll have his weaknesses figured out, and then that'll be the death of him. Another villain that actually comes to mind, and I just recently thought of this, would definitely be Alex Mercer, in that he is a colony of a virus with a single conscience. Or conscience, I said that wrong. And he would be capable of shape-shifting any part of his body to what he needs, but I will cover him in a separate video because this one is starting to come to its end and I still have to pick up background music. So thank you mortals so much for watching this video. I really hope it wasn't boring. I hope it was actually informative of why I've been changing around my shit so recently. And if you liked it, smack that like button in the face like a beast. And if you are enjoying this series, please consider hitting that subscribe button, because any kind of comments or subscriptions can help me, and I will infest all of you mortals in the next video. Have a good one.